Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are doing swell. Welcome to Top Knockouts episode 16, UFC 319 edition, in a series where prior to a pay-per-view event and prior to a fight night event, I take a look at every single fighter participating on the main card of that event. Now, you will be happy to hear I don't look at every fighter and I think, I look at every fighter and I look at their UFC resume, because I have to pick their best knockout win within the UFC. It has to be within the UFC, right? So the finale of the Ultimate Fighter counts, however, the rest doesn't, and Dana White's Contender Series doesn't count either. And after picking every fighter's best knockout win within the UFC, every main card fighter, I then make a list. And then I pick the best knockout out of all of those knockouts. And I hope this makes sense, because in my head I am cooking right now. Now, every fighter only gets one best knockout win because of guys like Alex Pereira and Ilia Topuria. Because if this is not the case, then whenever those guys fight, this video will basically just be a montage of their UFC careers. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to something like that. However, we have to give credit where it's due and have to give recognition to other fighters, because every week there are some ungodly, diabolical knockouts. And it's beautiful. Now, some fighters make it extremely difficult to pick the best knockout win within the UFC because they have so many insane knockouts. And on the other side of the spectrum, some make it extremely easy because they exclude themselves from this list completely, because they don't have any knockout wins within the UFC. And I don't want to name anyone, but I kind of find it, interesting that they're fighting in Chicago, where there was a champion who had pillow hands. But that's basically it. So, gonna bring you something special in this video. Now, it's not Sydney Sweeney special, but it's Megan Fox Transformers special, because I do think this card is going to be special. Trikas versus Hamza, Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico, Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates, MVP versus Jared Cannonier, Tim Elliott versus Kaya Sakuro. I think it's probably going to be the best card of the year. I mean, we have Edson Barbosa. He's fighting in the second fight on this card. We are blessed. So, gonna start with the video right away. Before I do so, just a friendly reminder, if you enjoy it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell. I would really appreciate it. It would be awesome. You're awesome. Let's go. Now, the something special I've planned for you today comes in the form of Jared Cannonier, the only guy in UFC history to have a knockout win as a heavyweight, as a light heavyweight, and as a middleweight. Meaning basically that he is the only one ever to have a knockout win as an uncle, as a cousin, and as a friend. Jared Cannonier, the Killer Gorilla, started off as the Killer King Kong, turned into the Killer Silverback. He's now the Killer Gorilla. If ever Jared makes welterweight, which I think is impossible unless he chops off his leg, he will become the Killer Ape. Now, I don't know whether this is evolution. I think I'm gonna stop with this comparison completely, but Jared Cannonier as a heavyweight basically looked like the Wish version of Derek Lewis, and now the guy's over 40 years old and he is still going strong, showing those young bucks how the unks do it. Knocking out Gregory Rodriguez, who I don't even think is human. That guy is not real, and Jared Cannonier knocks him out. Now, Jared doesn't make the list, but if he did, his best knockout win was his win over Derek Brunson, where if you go to law enforcement or you go to law school, they will show you this video. and it will basically be your prime example of what aggravated assault looks like. It was diabolical, absolutely butchering Derek Brunson, and you would imagine that Derek Brunson's corner learned from this. They didn't, because Dricus du Plessis did the exact same thing to Derek. You know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, Derek's dead. So Jared Cannonier doesn't make the list, but he is an honorable mention, definitely a knockout worthy of being on a list. It's just not this one. However, thank you Jared Cannonier, never a dull moment. His fights are always fun to watch, you never know what's gonna happen, you can count him out at your own risk. Jared Cannonier, it's been awesome, thanks. Starting off the official list, at number 5, Dricus du Plessis versus Trevin Giles. Now it's Dricus du Plessis, so we know it's gonna be unconventional. If I said Dricus via cartwheel kick, you would believe me. But in Dricus' second fight inside of the UFC, after beating Marcus Perez in his debut, Dricus fought Trevin Giles. And in the second round, it kind of looked like Trevin had Dricus in trouble. Had him cover up, backed up against the fence. It looked like Dricus was in trouble. It looked like Trevin was about to unleash a barrage. But all of a sudden, Dricus launched himself from the fence with his back and delivered a straight right, knocking out Trevin Giles, and he knocked him out clean. Sent him to his uncle. Sent his soul to a cookout where they only eat oxygen. He sent Trevin Giles miles. And that's basically Dricus du Plessis. If you watch a Dricus fight and it looks like Dricus is in trouble, it just means that you're watching the fight upside down. Because if Dricus is in trouble, that just means that he is exactly where he wants to be. Which is, we don't know. But he does. And that's why he delivers a straight right, knocks Trevin Giles out. It didn't even feel like Dricus was balanced, he just threw, but having that power, he just unleashed and it landed flush, knocked Trevin Giles out cold, rang his bell, good night. Dricus du Plessis versus Trevin Giles at number 5. Then at number 4, Lerone Murphy versus Marwan Amirkhani. Now in Lerone's 4th fight inside of the UFC, after drawing his debut and winning his next 2, he fought Marwan Amirkhani in what was somewhat of an underwhelming first round, where Marwan just took Lerone down and controlled him for the entire round. Took him down 5 times. So it was safe to assume at this point Lerone knew what Marwan's game plan was heading into round 2. And he did. Because he knew if he had to pressure Marwan, have him fight off the back foot, it would only be a matter of time before Marwan decides he was going to shoot again. And he did. Only this time, he shot himself in the foot. Because as he shot for his takedown, Lerone Murphy lifted up his knee and knocked Marwan Amirkhani out cold. Pillow, blanket, good night, he's out. Mr. Finland, Marwan Amirkhani turned into Mr. Finished. That's a good one. And Lerone Murphy with a brutal knee, perfectly timed, knew that if he was gonna throw feints, that it would come. If he was gonna pressure Marwan, have him fight off the back foot, have him close to the fence, he would probably panic and just shoot lazily for a takedown. He did it. Lerone picked up his knee and he knocked Marwan Amirkhani out. An insane knockout, beautiful timing, beautiful execution, preparation, the feints. You know this was planned. And that's why it is at number 4 on this list. Then at number 3, Jeff Neal versus Frank Camacho. So Jeff Neal started his UFC career on a 5-fight winning streak, and in the second fight he fought Frank Camacho in a fight where in the second round, after already knocking down Frank Camacho, we knew Frank was in dire straits. We knew that it was a matter of time, because for some reason Frank Camacho did his favorite Marvin Vettori impression, blocking every single strike with his head. We knew that if the right strike lands, Frank will fall. And he did. Because after landing straight left, after straight left, after straight left, Jeff knew that that was gonna be what Frank looked out for. Not that Frank was gonna do anything about it, he was just gonna look out for the straight left. So what does Jeff Neal do? He rolls his shoulder, fakes the straight left, comes up with the left head kick and sends Frank Camacho's soul on a spiritual quest. Sends his soul to Wonderland. Frank Camacho collapses and he is knocked out. He sent his soul to tomorrow. Because that body was not the same for a couple of minutes. Frank Camacho got knocked out cold. Beautiful execution by Jeff Neal. You think it's Jeff Hands of Steel Neal? And those hands will basically deliver Camacho his fate? Left head kick sent him away. A beautifully executed, beautifully timed. He knew he set him up. Left head kick. Frank Camacho is knocked out. Insane knockout from Jeff Neal. Definitely warrants being number 3 on this list, according to myself. Then at number 2, Carlos Prates versus Li Jingliang. After winning his first fight, after winning his second fight, in his third fight, Carlos Prates fought Li Jingliang. Take a left. That's not a GPS, that was Li Jingliang's head. Eating lefts after lefts in the second round after already knocking down Li Jingliang not once but twice. Carlos Prates went for the kill. And after constantly moving forward, he lands a straight left, hurts Li Jingliang, lands another straight left, hurts Li Jingliang, and finishes it with a right hook left hook combination which knocks Li Jingliang out cold for the first time. In the Leech's UFC career, he gets knocked out by Carlos Prates in a fight where he got knocked down 3 times. Vicious knockout power from Carlos Prates, landed at a 72% accuracy. So he could have basically just swung his arms around. It would have probably landed on Leech's head. That's how accurate, that's how dangerous Carlos Prates is. Landed a straight left, landed another one. Lee in serious trouble, backpedaling, and Carlos Prates finishes it with a right hook left hook combination. The Leech is gone. Absolutely gone. Knocked out cold. A beautiful knockout from Carlos Prates. He's at number 2 on this list. Then at number 1, it's none other than Chimaev versus Gerald Meerschaert. Now the reason why this is at number 1 is because of the fact that it was unexpected. Meaning that nobody expected it. This Khamzat figure came into the UFC and in his first fight basically ragdolled his opponent and ended up beating him via a Darce choke, but that was not it. Because a week later, he fought once again, making the quickest turnaround in UFC history. No training camp, took the fight on short notice, and a week later he fought Rhys McKee, and he ragdolls him as well. Beats him via ground and pound, and in his third fight, he fights Gerald Meerschaert. And heading into this fight, in the press conference, Khamzat said that if he was able to submit Gerald Meerschaert, would Gerald give him his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This fight lasted 17 seconds. Because in typical Khamzat Chimaev fashion, he pressed forward, pressured Gerald Meerschaert, had him against the fence. Instead of shooting for a takedown, he landed a straight right, which knocked Gerald Meerschaert out cold. Now he did land a couple of follow-up shots, wasn't even necessary. Gerald was out cold. The first time we see this guy do anything on the feet, throw a strike on the feet, and he knocked someone out cold. The whole mixed martial arts world was, we were in awe. We didn't know. And we couldn't really believe what we saw. How could this guy that has that insane level of wrestling be this dominant, have this much power on the feet? It didn't make sense. And that is why it is at number 1. It is a devastating knockout. The thump, the sound that it made when it landed sounded like something went off. It sounded heavy. And that is why this is at number 1. It is devastating. It was shocking. It was incredible at the same time. Khamzat Chimaev versus Gerald Meerschaert. I think it's warranted at number 1. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Do you agree with my picks? Do you think the order is correct? If not, let me know what you would change. I would really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a beautiful day.